Henry Staunton has now released the note, which was a note between himself or which was a note of a conversation that he had with SARAH MUNBY, at the time the permanent secretary at the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. And he writes, and I'm going to quote, "Sarah was sympathetic to all of the above. She understood the huge commercial challenge and the seriousness of the financial position. She described all the options as unattractive. However, politicians do not necessarily like to confront reality. This particularly applied when there was no obvious, quote, route to profitability. She said we needed to know that in the run-up to the election there was no appetite to, quote, rip off the Band-Aid. Quote, now was not the time for dealing with long-term issues. We needed a plan to, quote, hobble, end quote, up to the next election. In other words, limp into the next election and not pay up. The implication is quite clear. And he wrote the memo that night, and he emailed himself a copy of it, and also Nick Reed, the Post Office's chief executive, the next day. So everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. So Kemi Badenoch was not in a position to say that this was untrue and this was a tissue of lies. There's a government minister involved, and the CEO of the Post Office was aware. And if this was so shocking, why did nobody bring it up then when it was when it was actually introduced? Why did nobody say anything then? I think this demonstrates absolutely that the vilification of Henry Staunton in the parliamentary chamber, in the chamber of the House of Commons, becomes all the more shocking. And this has just been released just before Prime Minister's questions. I think Prime Minister's questions will be absolutely riveting today, and I'll bring you my comments on that as and when it happens.